Hello, welcome to this lesson. So now we'll continue with one of the principal moves for black after d takes c4, bishop g2. So let me show you what we're gonna see. So let's say d4, knight f6, c4, e6, knight f3, d5, Catalan g3 takes here. And before we saw already a lot of interesting moves. We have seen bishop d7, we have seen knight bd7, we saw c6, we saw some b5 rare move. Now we're gonna see knight c6, which is it was very principal back in the days. Nowadays it's a little bit not so popular, but it's still a very serious line. And instead of knight c6, another option is a6, then with knight e6. There are some differences. We will see a6 in the next lessons. So now we'll focus on knight c6. Basically, the idea of black is sometimes he just wants to play like rook b8 and b5 and to not lose a tempo by playing a6. And also of knight c6, there are big theories, there are a lot of different lines for white as well. And black is always more or less close to equalize, but there are a lot of theories and he needs really to know what to do. So basically the main line is queen a4 here, and this is the main line, always has been the main line. And after take, white has some options like castle or knight c3. All of them are very interesting, but there are already plenty of games, and somehow black already showed how to play, although still he needs to defend well, but I mean there are really a lot of theory, really a lot of games. So that's why I want to show you something a bit rare, where black also needs to know, but it's a little bit rare and probably fine for black, but it's a rare line where he might not know it very well, and also white can still try some rare line to get an advantage. So after knight c6, another option is also basically instead of queen a4, also knight c3 is interesting, rook b8 and now queen a4. Recently there are some games with this line, but what I want to show you after knight c6 is castle, which is the most logical move, obviously. So now a6 will transpose to the line with a6, which doesn't make much sense to play it here. After knight c6, normally black goes rook b8, this is the main line with the idea b5. Of course, any other move is not good enough. For example, bishop e7, we just go there and just recapture the pawn. And the same is bishop d6, we just go knight d2, just take the pawn, and white is clearly better. So the whole idea of black is, of course, to go rook b8. And this is another very popular position. White has so many options. Knight c3 here is the main move, and the main theory goes b5. Now he can go a6, also transposing to some a6-5 move, which is probably a good line for black. But here after knight c3, the main move is b5. And this is the main theory. Now the main position goes after queen c2, bishop b7, take. It's a huge theory, rook d1 and so on. But already there are a lot of games, of course, and once again I want to show you something a little bit more rare. Here I just want to show what options we have. We can go a4 in their games, b6 is the best move. We can go e3, but then b5 is the better version with compared to a6, because he didn't play a6, this rook is not under attack, and sometimes he can go rook b6, bishop b7, so the rook on b8 is better than with a6. So, because e3 actually in this position, if he goes for a6, e3 is the main move here for white. So let's say rook b8. Another option is bishop e3, played by Magnus Carlsen recently, but I think black has a couple of options to equalize. And so that's why I want to show you another move, queen c2. Of course, there are a lot of games, like in every move probably here for white, but not so much as knight c3, e3, and so on. So queen c2 is kind of a rare move. And I think still we can pose some problems. b5 is the logical way, because he needs to protect the pawn, and the only other option is to take on d4, but taking on d4 already seems very risky. And I will show how. Of course, we just take bishop e3, just trying to attack even this pawn, to play rook d1, maybe to attack even that one. So now black has tough choice where to go. If he goes all the way back, we go here, go there, take. And now we can simply go bishop e4, pinning this queen. Black is just much worse now. 95 we take. And we keep very serious advantage. He might go there, but then we'll take. Eventually we'll take here, and black has a lot of weaknesses here. And some rook d1, it looks pretty bad already. So instead of queen d8, he might go queen d6. But then we have some alternatives, but also we can give this check, because bishop d7 is queen a7 already winning this pawn b7. If knight d7 we take, keeping all the options, attacking this pawn, threatening some knight c3. It's a lot of initiative. I think black's pieces are still in the box, so it's very complicated for black. So probably the best defense is here, which is already a very awkward move. We go here. Now this is a little bit better version with the queen on d7, because after bishop f4 he wants to go here, and there's some differences. But here we can simply continue with knight e5, knight here. If rook b7, bishop g5 looks very tempting. This rook is just completely out of the game. And if rook e8, we can take exchange, take here. I don't think it's so clear. I think maybe it's only slightly better for white, but we'll exchange up, and obviously black is the one who will suffer here. So knight d4 is very dubious. The best option for black here is b5, of course, to protect the pawn. And now the idea of queen c3, of course, is to go b3, trying to attack this knight. So now what to do? He might go knight b4. I think this is the most logical move. Or bishop b7 makes some sense. The idea is to protect the knight and to threat knight d4. Because obviously taking immediately looked very suspicious. We can take, and some rook d1, even some bishop b2 looks very suspicious for black. And if he goes bishop b7 and take this pawn, we take. If he takes with the queen, we simply take and take back, and white is slightly better, some bishop b3. Very simple position. And if bishop g2, we take there, queen d6. Now it's important to not take on g7, because this is a mistake. This bishop is extremely strong, and now queen c4, black is already clearly better. So that's why after queen d6 or any other move, maybe queen e7 or queen c8, I mean, they're all similar. But we can simply take back, take with the queen. Check doesn't help much. We go here, go there. And this endgame looks very simple for white and kind of enjoyable, because he has so many weaknesses. We'll take this pawn next move, and white still keeps some advantage for sure. So after king g2, queen e6, we take. And this is also a bit awkward for black, because he still didn't castle and he has some weaknesses. I think we have different options. The computers are suggesting that even this is possible, and somehow to play like this, but it looks a little bit awkward. Knight d2 is on the other hand possible with some jumps with the knight. It looks a little bit better. But what I like more is just to provoke some actions, because now what to do? He needs to give check. We go back, just go here. And some rook here, knight d2. Okay, it's not so much, I understand that, but he has some weaknesses, and still it's very pleasant, and black still will suffer. I mean, it's not so easy equality here. So after b3, let's say he goes for knight b4. So now there are many games with the move queen b2 is the best, okay, the most played move. There are not so many, I think it's like 10 games maybe in the whole line here, but queen b2 is played by some correspondence players. The only, I mean, human game which is with very strong players is queen d1. This is Dubov Blue Baum, played in online 2022. Take, if queen b3, bishop b7 is very unclear. He took like this, 95. And here after these changes, I think black is more or less fine. I think Dubov managed even to be slightly worse. Probably the best way is to go here, but this is just equal. Exchange everything, and it should be a draw somehow. Maybe white has different options. But after knight d4, I like queen b2. After knight b4, I like queen b2. And I think here still black should be very careful. For example, cb3 looks like the most logical move. Of course, he might not take. If he goes bishop b7, we go here. And now this is a little bit tricky already. Take, probably keep the pawns is also interesting. Just keeping these two pawns slightly better for white, but you can just even exchange everything. And this was actually the game Kligus Lerner played in Anfield 2003. I think it's close to be equal, but white is still keeping some pressure. Some 95 is coming. It's not so simple. For sure, it's a little bit better for white. Because he still didn't castle. So after queen b2, he might go bishop e7, which is a little bit awkward. But anyway, we can go here, and it's very similar to the main line. So let's say queen b2, he goes here. So now there are only two games in this position. White always took with the queen, bishop b7, and this is kind of okay for black, castle. I think black can be even slightly better already. So the best option is a b3, of course. And now he might go a6, because otherwise, what to do? If he gives up the pawn, then white is just slightly better. without much risk, now threatening this in knight c6. It looks very pleasant. So he must lose a tempo to play e6, and now we go on knight e5, which is also kind of a good move. I think black should equalize here, but it's not so simple as it looks. For example, bishop b7 I think is the most logical move, which is already not so sure about this move, but it's like I think in one game almost everybody will play this. Another option is knight d7 to try to exchange the knights immediately. I think this is actually okay for black, so now we can try bishop d2. He must take, he must go here. This is still not entirely clear, because after rook f d1 we still have some temporary initiative. If castle knight e4, it's very similar. If let's say queen e8, we go here already. So now for example this is just bad because of knight f6. Obviously this is bad already, with some mating attacks like queen d4, queen e5 next. If king h8, this is just giving advantage. This is already very bad. I mean, it's probably defendable, but some rook d7, rook d2, it's very bad. So after here, queen e8, knight e4, he should go knight d5. Now we should exchange these bishops, very important to control the square. Take. I think here it should be equal, but still black has some small problems, some knight c5. Maybe some move like c5 is equalizing here, but okay, it's very complicated. So knight d7 is definitely possible, but the most logical move, the most human move is bishop b7, and now we take and play here, threatening bishop b4. He must go here, rook c1. And now it's very interesting that the only move that is very close to equalize, it's very difficult. All of the rest is just very playable for white. The best move is h6. Very difficult to understand this move. If he goes knight e4, we just go here, and these knights are not nothing special. So the main move is bishop d6. It looks like bishop b7 I think is the same, because in both cases we just take here and play here. We take. And now with the pawn on h6, this is much better for black. I mean, it's better version for black, and it's just equality. And here it's slightly worse, because queen d2, knight d2. If a5, we just go here, take, and this is already slightly better. He cannot go rook e8 somehow, because rook c8. And if he keeps the queen close, we just go rook c5, and this is very enjoyable. Some e3, there's some weaknesses, controlling the c file. Looks very nice for white. But after rook c1, this is the best move. So the idea is that, for example, after take, now a5 is good, and here he has this move, trying to support the pawn. And after rook c8, this is just probably a draw. Probably we need to go queen c2 with a draw. Another interesting, tempting move is rook c5, which is very interesting, trying to block the bishop to attack the knight. But now he can simply return, and I don't see anything better than just rook c5 now. So here, if you don't want to play bishop b4, we can actually try this one. It's probably possible. Here, knight c2, trying to exchange these knights. Here is the best. Take. Now it's very forcing. We take back the pawn. And still black is very close to equalize, because he wants to go e5 now. This is the whole point. Otherwise white is better, but he has this move. If d5, it's already tricky also for white. He has some jumps now. It's very unclear. But we can just take. He goes here, rook d5, maybe threatening d3. I think it's very close to be fine for black. But in any case, this line I think is kind of interesting to play queen c2. Of course, it's difficult to prove advantage in any line, but at least this is a little bit new and a little bit rare, and I think it's still posing some problems. So thank you for watching this lesson, and see you in the next ones, guys. Thank you.